What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm excited today. I met this guy through Instagram, and he shortly after that signed up as a GoBundance member. He's active duty Navy. He's a real estate investor and just a young, up and coming, driven dude. You're going to really enjoy him. So, welcome to you, Doug Spence. What's going on, brother?
Hey, Jamie, how are you?
Great, man. Great. Glad to have you. So happy to have you on. You're a fairly recent GoBundance brother. You're like, you have that new GoBundance smell on you still.
Yeah, it's just less than 2 weeks ago now that I joined, but I'm super excited, really glad to be part of the tribe.
Yeah, you had a lot of connection to it prior to, right? And it was something where this just felt like a natural progression for you. But let's hear about you. So I talked about Navy, active duty Navy, real estate investing, all of that. Where you're from? Give us the story of you.
Yeah, so originally from Houston, Texas, born and raised there. Went to undergrad at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. Soon after, joined the Navy. So I went to Navy Officer Candidate School in 2009 in Newport, Rhode Island. Soon after graduating that, I moved down to Pensacola, Florida for flight school for 2 years. And then I moved to the Central Valley of California for some more flight training for a year. Then moved out to Japan for 3 years, had an apartment in Tokyo, did a lot of travel, did 3 carrier deployments out there, and lived out there from 2012 to 2015. Then I moved back to Pensacola, Florida to be a flight instructor for 3 years. I bought my first rental property then there in Pensacola. And then in 2018, moved to San Diego. And I've lived here ever since. Love living in San Diego. And yeah, my real estate journey got started there in Pensacola, bought first property there as a primary residence, still own that property to this day. And then just got started in real estate, along the way, like dedicated real estate investing, not a primary residence. So started buying Turnkey in 2018 and just kind of progressed from there.
Go back to the Navy, joining the Navy, 2009, you said. Why? What precipitated the decision to go into the military, military life and all of that?
Yeah, I think it was 2 big things. One, I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself, and have that strong sense of purpose. And 2, I wanted to travel a lot. I had lived in Houston, hadn't traveled a ton growing up, and I just wanted to see the world, So, and the Navy was a great way to do that. And I've been all over and been able to check a lot of boxes as far as travel, both domestic and international.
No doubt. Japan is one of those spots. You mentioned you lived there, you had an apartment. What takeaways from that time? Like when you reflect on being a resident, if you will, of another country, how has that shaped you, or just some, I don't know, any stories or takeaways that you have from being there?
Yeah, I think you can learn so much from living somewhere. We like traveling places, usually 1, 2, 3 weeks at a time, but you really learn so much more about a place when you're immersed in that culture and you see that there's different ways of doing things that you hadn't really thought of before. And especially Japan, because their culture is so different. It's a real shock at first when you move over there, because most people don't speak English, but it was a real fantastic experience living over there, and got to do some great travel over there. Fantastic skiing, snowboarding. Love snowboarding. So the snow over there is great. But yeah, it was overall just a fantastic experience living over there.
Are you going to Park City, by the way, snowboarding?
That's the plan. Yes. Chatting with the San Diego Go Bros about getting a house. So I think we're going to finalize that this week, and then we'll all just stay in a house there in Park City. I'm really looking forward to that.
You just reminded me of one of your San Diego guys there, Tri Vu. I owe him a text. Tri, if you're listening to this, I will have spoken to you before this. My bad. With Japan, you come. Did you learn Japanese while you were there, or no?
Just a little bit, just enough to order food and direct a taxi around, that kind of stuff.
That's funny.
Yeah.
It's become something for me as well. I've talked before about lifestyle design for me. Now it includes travel and being able to. And we just booked a trip, my wife, my two kids, to the Dominican for about 5 weeks, starting right after Christmas and going through early February, except for one quick break that I'll take to be in Park City. I'm going to fly in and out of there. But we had to book a return because the country, unless you're a citizen, which my wife only is, the rest of us aren't, requires, that you're only there 3 months. So you need to book a return. But it's tempting to stay longer because, like you said, to stay 2, 3 months for our kids to get immersed in that culture in a different place, especially because it's half of what they are. They're half Dominican and half,
Right.
American or whatever. I think that's such an important thing, and it's amazing wisdom and from your perspective to say, hey, I want to travel, I want to see the world, I want to experience these cultures, and what you'll be able to serve to your kids and have them experience one day is pretty exciting. So very cool. Um, you're in Pensacola, you buy a property, you later move and you keep that property. Was that always the plan?
It was. So I had just started listening to Bigger Pockets when I moved to Pensacola, and I was renting a place for $1,500 a month. And I learned that I could buy a place in the same neighborhood that was nicer, more updated, better condition, newer. And my mortgage was only, or would only be, around 1,100 a month. So I was like, I do not know as much about real estate. Didn't know as much then as I do now, but that was the
Was that a
extent of
was that a
my.
VA loan as well? Did you use the VA loan for that?
No, that was not. So I did just a conventional mortgage on that one because the purchase price was so low. So my thoughts were save my VA loan for the future. It was only 198,000, so I had the cash to put 20% down on
Makes sense.
that. But yeah, I did buy it with the purpose of renting it out eventually. But I just thought, hey, as long as I can rent it for a few $100 more. Fast forward though, and I was able to rent it out for almost double the mortgage payment. So it really worked out well, and I'm still renting that one out for even more now and self-managing that one. That's the only one I still self-manage, but that was most people's first properties. I think don't work out that well, but I got kind of lucky.
Is that long term or short term at double the rent? Are you doing long term rental or short term rental?
That's long-term rental.
No kidding. Wow. That's
Yeah, I did do short-term rental on it for the summer of 2018. And I made superhost status and I did all of that myself, but I wasn't sure as we got into the winter months what it would be like. So I was like, let me just find long-term tenant. And they were, that first tenant rented for 1950 and my mortgage was less than 1,100 by that time. So it worked out pretty well. So
not bad. Not bad at all. Very cool. So
yeah.
since then, what's been your focus? So you moved to San Diego, or you said turnkey. Why turnkey? Where turnkey? And is that still what you're kind of scaling with going forward?
So not really focusing on turnkey anymore. I think turnkey is a great way for people to get their foot in the door with real estate, to see the value of real estate, the cash flow, the tax advantages, all that stuff. But it's really not where I'm focusing now, because I realize that if I want to hit my goals long term, I can't do that by just buying one or two turnkey properties a year. I really have to, get more involved. So that's what got me into doing BRRRRs. But yeah, I got started doing turnkey. I got connected with a fellow Navy guy who, him and his roommate from the academy started a turnkey company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, because they were tired of dealing with um, turnkey providers that are not trustworthy, which is, unfortunately pretty common. And I heard him talk on a podcast, and I was one of the first people to buy from them. And that property still does well to this day, and ended up buying 3 total properties from them. And last year is when I shifted to, I need to do my own, start doing BRRRRs on my own. So, and I owe a lot of my ability to do that to, one, joining a military real estate mastermind group that I joined last year, and two, David Green and Brandon Turner. I'm huge fans of theirs on Bigger Pockets, and especially David Green's books, Long Distance Real Estate Investing and the BRRRR book, were pivotal for me in my real estate growth. So shout out to David there.
There you go. How do you vet a turn, like you said about this provider being, I guess you shared a value as far as, service, military, all of that. But how do you vet a turnkey provider? Because I've heard some horror stories about turnkey providers. To your
Yeah.
point, a guy I know, I won't mention his name, is like, man, I don't know why ever he has like 14 turnkeys and he's losing money on the portfolio. So how do you
Uh,
vet a turnkey provider to make sure that it is something that is profitable and tenable?
yeah, that's a great question. I think the evaluating the individuals on the team is so much more important than the numbers, because no turnkey provider is going to show you a pro forma with numbers that don't work out. But I think it's, getting good referrals, asking who they've worked with, what happened when something went wrong, what happened when you lost money on something, how did they handle it, and those are the kind of questions I ask these guys. And we had that trust already because we're both in the Navy and all that. So I had that trust in them from the beginning. But then it's just evaluating the people, not necessarily the deal. I think is huge for turnkey, because it's very easy in turnkey to take advantage of investors, because it's usually out of state. It's usually someone who doesn't know much about real estate, and so it's just people can really get into bad situations there if they're buying properties that it's just lipstick on a pig kind of properties. So
No, that's and you say for turnkey, but that's really I've had people ask me, hey, when you're vetting a deal, multifamily, investing as a passive LP or whatever it might be, what do you look for? Like, and they what they're implying is, what are the numbers, what minimum IRR, what minimum returns, all that stuff. And I say, and I've learned this from being around people in GoBundance. I always say, who is the operator?
oh yeah.
Like that. That's it. Like I don't care as much if it's a 7 or a 9% return. Like I'll take trusted 7% return over, like a preferred return over I don't know you 9% preferred return all day, right? So I look at that, and even so I'm partnered with two other GoBundance guys, Mark Henteman and Nick Amalexon in Quantum Capital, and we have a fund that's open. And as we talk to investors, it's really the questions that I get, like, who are you? What do you do? Why invest with you? Why invest with you folks? Like, no one's really asking about specifically the returns. They want to know about the people, and I think that's the smart way to invest, turnkey or otherwise. So there's a lot of really good advice in there. Where are you burring right now?
Currently BRRRRing in Oklahoma. So I bought my first off-market property in Oklahoma City last December. It's a duplex, and that was my first BRRRR. Finished it in June, did the cash out refi in June, and currently I'm focusing on Tulsa, Oklahoma. We have a flip that is going to be listed this week. That'll be our first flip. And then we have a BRRRR property, our second BRRRR in Oklahoma, first BRRRR in Tulsa. And that one is about halfway done with the rehab portion. So that's where we're focusing now. We've got a deal funnel built that gives us leads for motivated sellers. Got a great real estate agent there as boots on the ground. And a lot of referrals from him for contractors. We have a project manager there that knows the real estate agent. So got a pretty solid team there in Tulsa.
Very cool. So what's the next phase? Is it scaling that business up? Do you have a certain milestone or goal that you have in mind for that, or are you looking at other opportunities or the next level?
Yeah, so we are still focused on Tulsa single family, or really 1 to 4 unit residential for now. Not a ton of 2 to 4 unit in Tulsa, just because of that's not what they built there. But a lot of single family homes there. But definitely looking forward to getting bigger. The natural real estate, the natural progression of the real estate investor is, single family home, 2 to 4 unit, and then getting into bigger stuff like multifamily. So one of my goals for 2022 is to be a GP in some type of syndication, whether it be multifamily or self-storage mobile home park. I'm currently an LP in a mobile home park syndication, so kind of dipped my toe in the water on the LP side, but just trying to learn more about the GP side, how to be a good GP, and try to get some experience with that in 2022. So that's kind of where I'm thinking, looking forward, while still doing the Tulsa stuff. I'd like to get the systems in place where the Tulsa stuff just kind of, it doesn't run on its own, but it's, I have the systems and processes in place to where it's less hands-on for me, so that I can focus more on the next phase of syndications.
Give me an idea on that because you also have a day job, right? You're an
Yeah.
active duty individual. So that balance is always a question that pops up. Like, hey, you got day job, side hustle. How do you balance it all? You mentioned systems and processes. Can you give me a couple examples for Tulsa? What are some systems or processes that you have in place that minimize your need to be sort of involved or engaged?
Yeah, so I think it starts with the deal funnel. So I realized early on when I started BRRRRing in Oklahoma, I got the team together, and then there's nothing on the MLS that fit my criteria. There's nothing from wholesalers that fit my criteria. So I realized very quickly I need to create my own deal funnel to source my own off-market leads. So um, fast forward, 8 or 9 months, I finally have a good team doing the deal funnel. I have a team of virtual assistants that do that. So that's key. That's because I used to do all the SMS and cold calling like myself just before I went into work in the morning. And being able to outsource that has been huge. They're better at it than I am, and they can do a lot bigger volume than I can. So there's that. There's having a great agent on the ground that kind of gets the properties under contract. He builds rapport with the sellers. Then we have a project manager there that we pay to run the rehab. There's that, and then looking at building out having an administrative assistant, which currently is my mom. So shout out to my mom there. She is awesome, extremely organized, and she's kind of getting that started so that once it grows, there's already an SOP in place for how that should go. So it's really just slowly building the pieces of the puzzle on the systems and process side so that it can eventually run on its own or mostly run on its own.
Talk about virtual assistants for a second, because this is something that, I think more and more people should take advantage of. It's the supply and demand issue fixed, right? There's a ton of supply, and on here at least, there's a lot of demand. And I have two virtual assistants, and they are unbelievable workers. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just smart, and I mean, it's you wonder how are they able to, with what they ask to be paid, how are they able to sustain a life? But in certain countries, it's enough, I guess. But how do you identify, like, I mean, just get a little granular. How do you identify virtual assistants? Where do you go? Is there a website you use? And then how do you onboard and train them to ensure that they're able to operate independently?
I think the easiest way to do it is not necessarily go with, hiring an individual off of Upwork or there's a few other Fiverr, a few other sites. I think the best way to do it if you're getting started is to go with a company, because a lot of these companies have VAs that work under them, and they do a lot of the vetting, a lot of the hiring. You can get references for other clients that company works for, and so they do a lot of that vetting for you. So I think that's a good way to get started in it. And the VAs that I'm using now for lead generation, they are part of a company. So, and I got referred to that company from actually the real estate software, the CRM that I use to do the SMS and cold calling, referred from that company. So these VAs are experts in that software, which is what I needed. So that's how I got referred to them.
Makes sense. Okay. Um, all right, just real quick, because we've talked about this. I want to make sure for those who aren't overly familiar with terms like BRRRR and turnkey. BRRRR is a real estate term of buying, rehabbing, renting, refinancing, and repeating. So BRRRR. I don't know how many
Nailed
R's that
it.
is, right?
Yeah.
And turnkey is essentially like somebody else does that BRRRR in essence, and then sells it to you with a tenant in place and management in place. So it's turnkey for you. You get to buy a property with a tenant, fully rehabbed for usually a fairly reasonable price, and you just kind of enjoy the cash flow is the theory behind it. But like you talked about, you need to vet and make sure you have the right turnkey provider. So that makes perfect sense. Um, Okay, on the GP side, so that being a general partner, how do you? I'm just curious, like, how do you plan to, like, what's the when you say you want to be on the GP side of a self storage fund or a multifamily fund, like, how do you plan to find that opportunity, or what's the strategy to finding an opportunity to be on the general partnership side? Because it's more active, obviously, but can be much more profitable. So, how do you kind of get in on a GP deal? Because a lot of people want to do that; they want to go from LP to GP. What's your plan?
Yeah. So a lot of it is just networking. That's my plan, at least. So I'm in the mastermind group that I've been in for the last year and a half is fantastic. Dave Perret started it along with Stu Grazier. Stu Grazier is the guy who I started doing the turnkey with. So there are a lot of guys in that group that are doing syndications. And so I've just been reaching out, talking to those guys, just learning from them. And that's kind of my plan, is to just get with one of those guys who I already know, they already know me, and work with them and kind of dip my toe in the water. I guess dip toe in the water is not the best way to put it, but I see myself raising money for a syndication, and that being how I get started in it, and then get involved with the meetings and all that stuff, and just start learning from there.
Why do you see that as your avenue, raising capital? I'm curious.
Because Jamie, you and I are both connectors, right? I think you're more of a super connector, but I just love chatting real estate with people. And I think one of my strengths is connecting people. So, as you talked about recently, I think on your Instagram, being able to recognize, hey, you're looking for this. I know another person over here that has what you're looking for. Why don't I just connect the two of you? So it's really just doing that. And so, on the syndication side, it's knowing people with capital that want a good return, but don't have the time or the inclination to build their own team and BRRRR and all that stuff. So just saying, hey, I know you have capital. There's this opportunity over here if you're interested. So it's really just connecting people.
I love it, man. No, I agree with you. It's a skill that I always undervalued, didn't understand, had value in many ways. Not necessarily, I mean, yes, for me, but for others, right? The ability to connect people to one another, to kind of hear what this one's doing and say, oh, I know a guy that would really benefit from knowing you, and you would benefit from knowing them, or whatever, or a gal, and putting those people together, or to your point, connecting an opportunity to a need. Hey, I'm looking to invest. I mean, that's popping up now. As we record this, we're coming to the end of 2021, and there are a lot of people with capital looking to place it so that they can get the tax benefit of, say, bonus depreciation, right? So it's like it's prime time to get that write off before year end, so you have that for your 2021 tax year. So there are those needs out there, and having opportunities or people to connect them to is so powerful, so valuable.
Yeah. I think it's important to note that if you're going to be a connector, you have to connect without any expectation of receiving something. Because if you're like, hey, remember when I connected you? So where's my cut or whatever? Like, people don't like that. Like, then you're just an asshole that's, connecting people with, only if you can get something out of it. So I think and it all goes back to providing value to others, just trying to find ways to provide value to others. And if it's just writing an email with both people on it, I mean, it's such a big potential ROI for those individuals with very low effort on our part. So it's a no-brainer for me, just connecting folks and just thinking of others and thinking of ways to provide value to others.
I love that. The great book Adam Grant wrote called Give and Take, and he chronicles a giver, a taker, and then a matcher, which is kind of what you're describing. Like, I'm doing with the expectation of receiving. And I'm with you. When you give, it will come back to you. May not be one to one, but when you generally are putting a lot of value out into the world, value returns to you. You don't have to think about it or worry about it or ask for it. It just will. You have to have some trust in that. And being in something like GoBundance, for me at least, has been a big lesson in that. We might have talked about this when we chatted, but it's when you go into an organization that values contribution, which is one of the pillars of GoBundance, and contribute, all others want to contribute as well. And there's just ways that it comes back. Could be amazing experiences, could be a financial return, could be all of the above, great experiences for your family, for your wife, for your husband, whomever. All of that I've seen manifest as a result of not thinking about, okay, I just joined, what do I get? It's more like, I just joined, how can I give? Right? That's
exactly.
kind of the difference. So, and on that point, before we pivot over to kind of the one sheet, I'm kind of curious, because you are, like I said, you got that shiny new GoBro glow on you right now. A couple of weeks in at this point, kind of talk about, just for folks that are maybe, thinking about joining or just joining or whatever, but what's it been for you in the first 2 weeks? I know there's not a lot that's gone on. You haven't gotten a GoPod yet, I don't think, and all of that, but just initial sort of impression or thoughts or learnings or things that have happened that you would share about being a brand new GoBundance member.
Yeah, well, I was pretty familiar with the mastermind as a whole before I joined, because hearing David and Brandon talk about it on Bigger Pockets. And then that's what got me into listening to the podcast. So I've listened to a ton of episodes of the podcast, heard a bunch of one sheets. So I kind of knew the deal, knew the pillars and all that stuff. So most of that stuff was not a surprise to me, but I think what has surprised me is, just getting into that Facebook group and seeing how engaged everyone is. And, like we talked about, looking to provide value. There's people all asking questions and lots of people responding, trying to help out in any way they can. And really just connecting, being able to connect both virtually and in person with people that have the same kind of mindset of always trying to improve. And not just trying to improve, but trying to find balance. It's not just about getting wealthy or whatever. It's, having good personal relationships, being able to give back, being able to spend time with your family and all that. So being around those like-minded people that also seek balance, I think that's been, it's not just talking the talk, it's walking the walk too. And I've seen that just in the 10 days since I've joined.
Nice. You already connected with some guys local to you, it sounds like, too, yeah?
Yeah, we have a WhatsApp group. I haven't met any of them personally because I was out of town until last Friday on a work trip, and I'm leaving tomorrow, heading out of town again, but looking to meet up with them probably middle to the end of this month. And then we're all a few of us are gonna have a house together in Park City. So looking forward to that too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, my pod and I got a house in Park City as well. We just did it. And it's funny, like we have about 14, 15 guys in Michigan and where I am. And just this morning I called the guy because I'm like, well, hey, I'm going to be in the Dominican for the month of January. I don't want to bring all my winter clothes there to then have to go to Park City and back. So can I throw this stuff to you? So he's going to, like load it on the plane and bring it down there for me. Just that camaraderie locally is small example, but it's good to have. So good for you, man. It'll be a lot of fun to get you involved, and it'll be good to meet you in Park City. So, all right, let's dive into the one sheet questions. We're going to go pillar by pillar, starting with horizontal income. And let's start with a simple question. If you're comfortable sharing, what is your current horizontal income and how many lines is that?
So horizontal net income for 2021, right around 50,400.
That's net. So you're taking out your tax, your whatever maintenance costs you've had on your properties. That's net to you.
Right. That is including like property taxes and all that stuff, not necessarily end of year taxes, but yeah, that's money going into the checking account after paying property management and all that stuff. So, and then that is 8 lines of income, which I'm counting the LP and the syndication. We rent out the bottom floor of our house here in San Diego. I'm counting that as one, plus homes that the business owns as well.
Makes sense. And what percentager are you at this point?
So that would be, that's horizontal to net worth.
No, just a percentage of your expenses covered by passive income. So your horizontal income. There should be a percentage on there that shows like how much of your. So in other words, like what are your expenses per year? Your total expenses per year.
Expenses per year, 114,000, so 9,500 a month, and that's including a $4,800 mortgage payment on our house here in San Diego.
Got it.
Yeah.
So all right, so if you're 114 out and you've got 50K in, you're like 40-ish percentager essentially at this point, right? Somewhere in that 38 to 42% of your expenses are covered by horizontal income. That's what that percentage is. I'll walk you through it, man. You're new. It's okay. We can.
I think 44%. I see financial freedom percentager right here. Is that it?
That's it. So you're 44%.
Yeah, 44%.
All right. Yeah, my math isn't great. So yeah, 50,000 in, 114 out, 44%. So that's your financial. Your target is to be a 100%er, obviously, right? To have 114,000 in, 114,000 out. That is true financial freedom. You have no need to work. You can, but you have no need to work at that point. So that's what that is. How about your horizontal net worth ratio? What does that look like?
Horizontal to net worth is 5%.
Okay, that's solid. That's very solid. Good for you, man. All right, let's dive over. Oh, actually, so do you have assets outside of real estate as a percentage of your net worth, or is pretty much all of your net worth real estate at this point?
I would say 1/3 of the net worth is just like IRAs, like retirement accounts, just in low cost index funds. And then 10% is liquid and the rest is real estate.
No crypto?
I didn't include crypto. I do own a little bit of Ethereum and
Yeah.
IOTA that I bought back in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. I'm not super into the crypto. A lot of that's because I don't know anything about it, but uh, yeah,
There's a Bitcoin micro tribe you should check out.
I
And
saw that.
I'm the same. I bought Ethereum at a decent price early. Actually, I was in Austin and Sergio Altamore show. I literally didn't know how to do like how do I buy it? So he
Yeah.
showed me, got me an account and showed me, and I bought like $10,000 worth of Ethereum. And then
When
I
was that?
recently
Was that years ago?
no, 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 no. It was earlier this year. So I'm
Oh,
up a
okay.
bit. I'm up a
Yeah.
bit, but nothing. I'm a recent adopter. And even Bitcoin, I've been I've been watching it and watching it. And Damian Lupo, thanks to him, thank you, Damian Lupo, was like, "Are you waiting for it to get to 100,000 a coin?" I'm like, okay. So I bought one coin at 60,000. And then the
Nice.
next day it went to 58. So it went down immediately, which the same thing happened to me with Ethereum. But now it's as of this recording, it's back up. And all projections seem to be that it's going to be a good buy long term. And I'm actually tempted to buy more, but we'll see what
Yeah.
happens. So, recent adopter to Bitcoin. Happy to share my limited knowledge if you need it. Let's jump over to age defying health. So, what is your current weight and your current body fat percentage?
Okay, I don't weigh myself very often. I don't think we even own a scale, but I've hovered around 180 to 185 for the last 10 years. So I've put myself at about 182 right now.
Got it. Yeah. What's the body fat percentage? Do you have any sense?
Estimating 15 to 20%, but
How, t-
I'm not
how
really
tall are you?
sure. 6 feet.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, I wasn't sure if you're like me, 5'7", 5'6" kind of thing, but now you're a taller dude. And what's the daily diet look like and exercise routine?
So diet wise, about 6 months ago, my wife and I kind of shifted more towards focusing more on vegetables. We're not strict vegetarians or vegans by any means, but we have increased the percentage of our diet that comes from vegetables. So I probably eat meat, maybe twice a week, talking pork, beef, chicken. I do eat fish a few times a week, but a lot of salads, a lot of, regular vegetables. And we try to keep it varied, not eating the same vegetables all the time. And then on the workout side, one of my daily things is doing something fitness related every day. So I'll probably hit the gym for weights 3 to 4 times a week, run 2 to 3 times a week, and try to work in some stretching as well. If I'm traveling and I don't have time to get in a good workout, I usually do 10 to 15 minutes of stretching. So try to do something fitness related every day.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Okay. How about family? So you're married currently, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about wife, kids, future, not maybe not in the cards. Who knows? What's that look like? What's the family look like?
Yeah, so my wife name is Kate, and she is also in the Navy. She is a Navy JAG, which is like a attorney, like a military attorney, and she is pregnant with our first. She just finished her first trimester, and so we're expecting our first in the end of April. So very excited about that. I already joined the dad micro tribe as well to learn as much as I can, and but yeah, she's actually out in Hawaii right now for work, so gonna fly out there tomorrow to see her. So
Good for you, man. That's amazing. And congratulations for one on the way. And yeah, it's great that you're planning and getting ahead of it. And I feel like being a dad is like the Mike Tyson quote, like you great plan, but then until you get punched in the face or something like that.
yeah,
That's just simply not sleeping. That's the punched in the face part, is the not sleeping part. So
yeah. And if
enjoy it.
anyone has any books, I've read one book about it, but open to. I'm a big reader, so any other books, any Go Bros recommend, please send it my way.
I'll give you two real quick at the baby stage. It's about, anything sleep training, any sleep training. So the Ferber method, there's a couple of them, but just Google sleep training books. That'll be helpful. And, you're going to have to deal with it for the first few months. I mean, a baby's a baby, right? But there is a point in time where they're developed enough for you to train them to sleep through the night and they don't, whatever. So there's great books in that regard. And then
Okay.
as they age, a year, maybe 2 years, it's how to speak. So my child will listen, I think is the name of the book. That book was fire. We talked about that in the Dad's Micro Tribe and put it out there a little bit. That book has just great. I mean, it pointed to everything I was doing wrong essentially, and gave me the correct way to do it. So I'm
Cool.
butchering the name of it a little bit, but you can Google that and find it for anybody listening. So Good for you, man. Congratulations on the baby up and coming. That's incredible.
Thank you.
What does your life happiness index look like right now?
Yeah, let me get over there. Okay, currently 7.3.
That's pretty good. What's the lowest in there? Like where's the struggle, if any?
The lowest is giving back. I have it at 3, just because we don't really. That's something I need to focus more on is giving back both time and money. And then the other low one is horizontal income, which is at a 5.
Wow. You're actually doing okay, I feel like, with horizontal income, but that good for you, man. You got high standards, so
Yeah,
that's
I want
awesome.
to. So the goal is I've got another 7.5 years until I retire from the Navy.
Yeah.
And the goal is to completely replace both my income and my wife's income on the W-2 side by the time I retire. So that's the goal.
Makes sense. Makes sense. The service one is interesting to me, or giving back, given that you are serving our country, right? Like your whole life has been dedicated to service. I feel like you've got contribution, like that bucket's full, overflowing, but you're seeing it a little bit differently, it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, hearing guys on the podcast talk about, how much they're able to give, whether it's financially or time, um, and I just haven't been doing that as much. So that's kind of the context that I think about it. But I guess you could look at it in a way maybe I should have a higher number on the give back, but I still think there's more I could do. One thing I do want to do is I really enjoy helping military members learn more about real estate and the value of real estate. So what I'm thinking about doing is, you know, giving my time for free to people doing that, like counseling or consulting, whatever, just to folks doing that. And then I would just count that as like, an hourly thing and count that towards my give back. So that's an
Makes
idea
sense.
I had that I'll probably start doing in 2022.
Makes sense. I like that. What about adventures? What do you have coming up? Any big adventures other than potentially Park City?
So my adventure travel is a 10, just because the nature of my job is, I've been able to do a lot of cool stuff, and both, in naval aviation and stuff I'm doing on the ground side now. So been able to do a lot of cool stuff that people never really get to do. And then on the travel side, I travel a lot for work, a lot of cool places, Utah, Nevada,
Hawaii?
Boise, Hawaii. Yeah, go to Hawaii a bunch.
Yeah.
And then all the international travel I've done in the past, did RV'd around New Zealand for 2.5 weeks and
Nice.
Southeast Asia for 2 weeks. So I've been to Australia 3 times. So I've been able to do a lot of great travel and a lot of adventure stuff, skydive, hang gliding, bungee jump, all that stuff. So that's why my adventure's at a 10. So
Got it. There's a guy local to me, the original Michigan guy for GoBundance, Brent Flewelling. He did the RVing around New Zealand at one point. I'll have to connect you guys. That's cool.
it's fantastic. It's an amazing country. If you haven't been, it's exceptional.
Good for you, man. Very cool. Well, let's wrap this up with a question from the GoBundance card game. The king of clubs, clubs. Yeah, that's clubs. Is the card? I get them all confused every week. I'm gonna get these down one time. But here's the question: if you were unexpectedly given an award with no explanation, what would your friends and family assume you had done to earn this award?
I think it would have something to do with slumlording. All my, coworkers and friends and family called me a slumlord. So um, it would be something to do with that, I think.
Isn't it funny? I mean, I know they're joking with you and messing with you, but it's what a lot of people have in their lives that makes them find a GoBundance, right? Is
Yes.
there's a joke, but there's also this perception, and when you start talking about this in your normal circles, what you're doing, all that you're building on the side, it becomes vilified. Especially in the real estate space. I'm not getting a midnight call, or what about? Don't you hate dealing with this? Or it's like, and none of it's real. So you get around people, men's, women's organizations in GoBundance or whatever, or even Ascend, right? Any of the groups in GoBundance where you're talking to people about things, and you can. It's open discussion. In fact, you're talking about how you can build on that and how you can grow from it. That's how we find a GoBundance. What did you say?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just being around like-minded people, because if you're just surrounded by people who plan on doing their W-2 until they turn 65. They just don't get it. So yeah, I agree.
Love it. Before we jump over to, I want to hear where people can find more about you and talk about some of the stuff you're doing on the Thought Leader platform side. Was Top Gun at all a factor in your decision to go into naval aviation? Was there a need for speed or fly by my tower, any of that stuff? I mean, give me something here. No,
not really growing up. I mean, I never really thought about joining the military. Like growing up, there are those guys that they want to go fast, they want to do jets and stuff, and I never really expected that. Even when I went to the military recruiter, the only reason he talked about it was he was like, yeah, aviation needs, they need people right now. Like, why don't you take the aviation test? And I was like, I don't know anything about it. And he's like, just take it anyway. It did well enough. And then fast forward and, here I am. But that wasn't necessarily a dream, but I've just gotten, I think, really lucky with what I've been able to do, and a lot of it's timing as well. So yeah, but it's been a great experience.
Is there a secret of the military to the jaw clink, the Val Kilmer jaw clink in Top Gun, where you can actually hear it? Like,
yeah, that's part of flight school, along with the beach volleyball. Yeah,
I knew it. Yes, exactly. Oiled up beach volleyball and jaw clink.
Exactly.
Clink.
Well, that's why it's in Pensacola, so you can learn all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. All right. Talk about honor and equity. This is how I connected to you through your Instagram account, Honor and Equity. Talk a little bit about what that is and what you're doing with that and how people can find you with it.
Yeah. So my mastermind group that I joined a year and a half ago, they challenged people to create your own thought leadership platform. And so it started as a blog, and just wanted to help military members, veterans, and their families just learn more about real estate and learn the value of investing and buying real estate, just to provide for their families and have financial freedom someday and not have to work that 9 to 5. So that's kind of what started it. And I just started writing articles, and now with the website honorandequity.com, got over 30 articles on there, and then the Instagram page at Honor and Equity. We put out a lot of great content on there, and just trying to help people learn more about real estate. I love connecting with people, really anyone, but especially those military members that are fresh out of boot camp, fresh out of officer candidate school, fresh out of the academy, that know real estate is a good way to build wealth, but they just don't know how to do it. And I love talking to those people and helping them get started in the right direction.
Yeah, it's honor and equity.com. Honor and Equity, same thing, all spelled out on the Instagram profile. It's a great page, a lot of good content, and the website is like you said, chock full with articles and everything else on there. So, man, Doug, this is amazing. I appreciate you jumping in. Like I said, just soon after joining and being part of the podcast. And yeah, man, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. It's been a blast. Thanks for having me.